the good, the bad, and, well, remakes in general as well. Now, for those of you who don't know, not too long ago, Resident Evil 2, the remake, or as people call it, was released. And in this game, you play as either Leon Scott Kennedy or Claire Redfield as they fight their way through the zombie infested city of Raccoon City. First, I want to go ahead and get the bad out of the way, because I think everyone likes bad news first and then the good news, to end it all off on a happy note. So let's go ahead and get the bad out of the way. First of all, my biggest problem with this game: content, content, content. That's right. The enemies in this game are lackluster, which is my first problem with the content in this game. The zombies just aren't a threat. They're just zombies. They're kind of there, well, to be zombies. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, zombies aren't exactly the most impressive enemy in the world. And you're right. That's why Resident Evil is known for having other enemies such as lickers, the zombie dogs, those types of things. Whoa, hello there, zombie. I expect you to be right in my face. Now, don't get me wrong, this game does have other enemies other than just normal zombies. It's got lickers, zombie dogs, the tyrant, it's got William Birkin. It does have its selection of enemies, which is nice, because if it was just zombies, I probably would not touch this game. But one thing I think they really could have capitalized on, since this game is a remake, one thing they're allowed to do is change the lore. Why not change what the virus does? Add a new type of enemy we've never seen before. To any true Resident Evil fan that's out there, you'll know that there's kind of a secret about Resident Evil 2. That when it was originally released, it was actually supposed to be very different. And instead of playing as Leon Kennedy, we were going to be playing as... Actually, no, I think if I remember correctly, we were still going to be playing as Leon Kennedy, and we were still going to be playing... Or no, sorry. We were not going to be playing as Claire Redfield. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I keep messing that up. I put so many bullets in you. Please stay down. Let me just... make sure. Okay, I think he's dead. How about you guys? Now then. Let me completely correct myself. To any fan of Resident Evil, or I think the more hardcore fans know about what I like to call Resident Evil 2.5. This Resident Evil was supposed to be the original Resident Evil 2, where I believe we still played as Leon Kennedy, but instead of Claire Redfield, we were going to be playing as a different character, still a female, but she went by the name of Elsa Walker. Now, I don't exactly know much about Elsa and her character, but I do know that the game was supposed to be vastly different, with different enemy types, and you can even look up videos on what this game was supposed to be like, and if I remember correctly, I think they were supposed to be something like zombie gorillas or something like that in the game. All in all, if you look into it, it seems pretty interesting, and I think there's even a playable version of it out there if you can find it. I would have no idea where to find it, but I do know that it's out there. Sorry, had to move something in my room for a moment. Anyway, as I was saying, there's a playable version of it out there to anyone who's curious and wants to take a look and see what it's really like if you want to get your hands on it. Now, as I said, this game has a problem with content. What I think they could have done to fix the content issue is, first of all, there were some games from the original version of Resident Evil 2, the version that, we all know and love, that we all played on PlayStation 1, that did not make it into this game. One of the enemies that didn't make it in this game was the spider. At some point when you get farther into the game, there would be giant creepy crawly spiders that would attack you, and they would have the ability to poison your character. It seems like in this game they were replaced with the G monsters. The G monsters make a much more prevalent appearance in this game. Now, while it's not the biggest issue in the world, and I don't think it's the biggest problem in the world, I think that they really should have added a much wider variety of enemies. I think one thing they could have done to also increase the length of the game and to increase the content that this game offers is in the beginning of this game, when you get separated from Claire, you make your way to the police station pretty fast and pretty safe. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to be generous and say that Raccoon City has a population of at least 20,000 people. That's not that much. Now, let's say that half of them were turned into zombies. And that's being generous. Probably more than that were turned into zombies. So let's say that half of them got infected and turned into a zombie, okay? If that's the case, then there are 10,000 zombies in this city. I really do not believe Leon would have such an easy, time just making it to the police station. Now, I'm not saying it should be impossible to get to the police station, but I am saying that it would be a challenge, and he would struggle to get there. So I think what they should have done, first of all, I think they should have taken a page out of Resident Evil 4, book, if you want to call it, or however you want to phrase it. And I think they should have divided this game up into chapters. I think one thing that Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6 did well is that the games weren't short. They had a lot of content, they had a decent amount of enemy types, and the games were lengthy. You're not just going to beat it in 2 hours unless you ignore all the enemies and rush right on through. In this game, you could fight most of the enemies and still make it pretty... I'd say you could beat the game in pretty much under 3 hours. But you're definitely not going to do that in Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6 unless you ignore everything. So I think this game really could have done better if it had taken a page out of... was I supposed to examine that book? Well, apparently not. I do know I can examine this, though. Sorry, it's been a while since I've played this game, you guys. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I think that if they had really, honestly, worked on this game for, I don't know how long this game was in development, but let's say it was in development for 5 years. I think they should have kept the game a secret, and I think they should have kept working on it and developing it until it was at least... The game right now, as it stands, I believe is 9 gigabytes big. I think it should be at least triple that. Or, maybe even bigger. I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil, and I've got no issue with playing a game that takes a handful of hours to complete, as long as the game has one important thing going for it, and that's replayability. I've played plenty of games that aren't that big, but their replay value is pretty high up there.
Surrounded by zombies. Marvin, do you copy? Marvin!
Please shut up, Leon.
Damn it. Son of a bitch.
Let's go ahead and take care of these guys, because why not?
What the hell?
Anyway, I'm sorry. As I was saying, I think they could have taken a page from the other Resident Evils and really divided the game up into chapters. Or, if they don't want to divide the game up into chapters, just add more stuff to the game. Make the game longer in general. Add more enemies. Do whatever. Go crazy. Go wild. to be honest, I have absolutely no issue with them changing the lore and changing how the viruses work to create new types of enemies. Do what you want. I've been a huge fan of Resident Evil since the fourth game and since I was a small kid. I was never really allowed to play the earlier Resident Evils. I was allowed to watch, just not play. Go ahead and take care of these guys really fast. And I don't really need a flash grenade. Sorry if I don't talk so much, guys. It's a little difficult for me to play and talk at the same time. I'm still getting used to, talking while playing. Hopefully, I'm planning to get used to it, and hopefully it'll become second nature. Anyway, I think they could have just added more enemy types and just in general made the game longer, and I think the game would have done a lot better. Now, that's primarily my biggest issue with the game, is content. The next couple issues I'm going to talk about are just smaller things, but they are still issues. First of all, William Birkin and the Tyrant do not feel like genuine threats. They feel like pushovers almost. I'm not saying that they're not strong enemies in their own right, but in my opinion, they feel like they're supposed to be the antagonist in a way, i.e., they're the main villain, the main threat, but they don't come across that way. In my opinion, they come across more as just a generic enemy that's really tough. Like a, not even a mini boss, but like a mini thing, like a really crappy mini boss. Or more like an encounter, not even a full-on boss status. Which is really, really sad and really, really depressing, because both William Birkin and the Tyrant are pretty important characters in the Resident Evil franchise. And they're both characters that I like and enjoy. In this game, though, William Birkin feels like nothing more than a whiny child. If I had the editing ability, I'd show you what I mean. But there's a cutscene in this game right after William Birkin has been almost shot to death, and he infects himself with the G virus, where he stands up saying, "G is my creation," aka the G virus is his creation. And I don't know who the voice actor they chose for it was, but he sounds like a very whiny, spoiled brat in that moment. And so it's kind of hard to really care about his character when he sounds like that. Sorry, I'm going to switch out weapons here, just so I can have a little bit of fun. I'm going to grab me the minigun. I actually agree with you. I do believe Resident Evil 4 is better. That's one thing I was going to bring up in this video. Is that even though this game, I think, succeeded in many ways, I think it failed in a number of them. Oh yeah, it's just that guy's body. I think the biggest problem that Capcom has had when it comes to Resident Evil is that when it comes to Resident Evil, when they created the fourth game, in a lot of fans' opinion and in my own, they created what I would like to call the perfect blend of action horror. And by that I mean, when Resident Evil 4 wants you to feel like you're supposed to be unstoppable and you're like a superhero or like some kind of super mega action hero, you do. You feel like you're an unstoppable, force. Like, no matter what they throw at you, you couldn't possibly be beaten. I think it's a little bit too action-packed as... Well, actually, that is another point I wanted to touch on. See, I think that Resident Evil, in my opinion, it's always been an action-packed game. even from the very first ones, you've had the option to go in and gun down the zombies. Now, you've never really had the ammo to support that decision, and it's not really been the best idea that you could possibly take, but you were certainly allowed to do so. And if you failed to take down all the enemies, well, you could always reload and try again next time. I think the real truth is that Resident Evil, it's while it is survival horror, I think it's survival action horror. I know not everyone would agree with me, and I know a lot of people would say I'm flat out wrong. That's actually a good point that you bring up. And I was actually talking about that earlier, how Mr. X, aka the Tyrant, I feel like he should be a much stronger force in this game, including William Birkin. They should be genuine, viable threats. I honestly believe that... Okay, where is it at? Die, Liquor. I genuinely think that they shouldn't be able to be taken out. They should be a very serious threat that you have to deal with. But they're not. Even without me messing around with infinite ammo, just so it's easier for me to talk and give my thoughts and opinion. Uh, they're not that hard to take out. They're not that big of a threat. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who would disagree with me and say, "Oh no, I had such a hard time dealing with them," you know. And if you did, that's fine. I'm not saying that, you're bad at the game or anything like that. But in my personal opinion, I just didn't find either William Birkin. Uh, I played a little bit of Evil Within. I didn't get to finish it as I was at a friend's house and he ended up returning it. But I did enjoy what I played. I did finish watching the game on a Let's Play though because I was very intrigued by it. What is that? Oh, I don't need that. Let's go ahead and put down the bomb. Open this. I think a hiding mechanic would have been nice as well. Uh, from the Tyrant and from William Birkin, but I don't know. I think the biggest problem when it comes to Resident Evil as a series is, first of all, zombies have been done to death. Zombies simply just, in general, aren't exactly that scary anymore. Unless you're someone who's easily frightened, it's kind of hard to take zombies as a serious threat. There with all these zombie TV shows, video games, books, all the different types of, outlets you can find zombies in. They're not as scary as they used to be. You really have to step up your game if you're going to create a scary zombie nowadays. Which is fine. I'm not saying that zombies can't be scary. Because Dying Light, which is a zombie game, definitely scared me when I first played it. There we go, more inventory. Let me go ahead and see what the code I'm supposed to do is. It's fish, arrow, snake. look like a snake. Let me take one more look at this, sorry. Yeah, I can agree with that. Oh no, it's woman bow and arrow snake, sorry. Here we go. I think one thing they could have done to make this game a lot better is, first of all, as I was saying earlier, made the game longer and added a much wider uh, variety of enemies. My biggest issue with the game is that while there are a decent amount of enemies in the game, they're all enemies we've all seen before. I mean, everyone's seen the zombie dog, everyone's seen Mr. X, everyone's seen the lickers. You know, we've all seen these things. They're not exactly new to the series. One thing that I think that they should have capitalized on is, since this is a remake, you can change the lore. The old Resident Evil 2 game technically is no longer canon. This is the new story. This is the new canon for Resident Evil. So I think they should have went the extra mile and created new enemies. You know, something that we had never seen before. But sadly they didn't. And that's one of the issues I have with this game, is not only the enemies repetitive, but none of them are really scary. For a game that a lot of people said they found scary and, you know, was a true successor to survival horror and all that, I never really found myself scared of anything going on in this game, regardless of the difficulty I play on or regardless of what's happening. I mean, the game's fun, I'll give it that, if you just want to run around and kill zombies, but if we're talking about genuine, like, horror, no, it's not a scary game. But this game does have some good to it. Like, the graphics. The game does look really well, and, you know, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of pleasing to look at. I do like the graphics of the game. I like the atmosphere. And I like the sounds that the zombies give off. They actually sound like zombies. You know, they didn't use the original. I think it would have been funny, but, you know, they changed the zombie sounds. We don't get the original random, dumb zombie moans that zombies used to give off in the Resident Evil series.
So it goes underground. Huh. That's it. That's our way out. Lieutenant Branna! Marvin! It's time to go. Marvin. We need to get you to a hospital right now.
No,
I don't really care about the cutscenes. I'm just kind of messing around and talking about the game. But that's kind of my one thing I've kind of not really talked about. Is this game brings up my problems with remakes as a whole, in the sense of this game is not very long. Like, if you use the infinite ammo weapons, like if you use this powerhouse and you just run through everything, you can beat the game in about 2 hours. If you just ignore everything and you dodge the enemies, you can beat it in 1 hour, honestly. That's kind of sad and pathetic, in my opinion. I genuinely believe that, you know, nowadays, if you're going to create a game, it should take me at least 6 to 7 hours to complete it. I know that's a pretty big number, but, I mean, let's be real. We're talking about, you know, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. You know, current generation consoles are pretty powerful. And if the whole trend of remaking games is going to continue, onto the next generation of consoles, which I don't know if anyone has looked into the specs of the new consoles, but they're supposed to be real powerhouses, amazing consoles. These, Sony and Xbox are making all these wild claims. I don't know how many of them are true, but if any of them are true, then I'm going to be honest with you. They're going to be real beefy powerhouse consoles. They're going to be amazing. They're going to be, you know, everything you could hope for and more. And if you're going to remake a PlayStation 1 game on one of those consoles, I don't want a 2 hour game remade, you know? If you're going to remake a 2 hour game or whatever, add new content, add new lore, add new enemies, go above and beyond is really what I'm trying to say. As much as I love this game, and as fun as this game is, I genuinely believe its biggest flaw is just lack of content. And I don't know what created this issue. I don't know if it was a developer issue or if Capcom just doesn't want to put the money forward. Oh, well. Well, here you go. That's William Birkin. There we go. That was easy. I love that fall. I'm sorry, I just had to show it. But I think this, along with a lot of other remakes, suffer from one thing: lack of content. When you remake a PlayStation 1, Nintendo 64, NES game, whatever, from back in the past, those games were on cartridges, They were on, for the first time ever, on disc. I'm talking about, the technology was new. It was innovative, sure, but brand spanking new. People back then didn't even know if discs were going to make it as the next form of gaming because it cost so much to produce. Now, I'm glad that they did because look at what we have now. But back in the day, I mean, some people were like, they firmly believed that cartridge gaming, such as what the Nintendo 64 did, was going to be the mainstay of gaming as it was just it cost too much to put a game on disc. Now, obviously they were wrong, but I genuinely believe that if more games are going to get remakes, such as another one that's coming up is Medieval here on the PlayStation. It's a game I played when I was a kid on the PlayStation 1. A fun game for sure, but again, for all I know, it could suffer from the same problem that dear old Resident Evil 2 here has, which is it's a PlayStation 1 game, one of my favorite. There's another game I actually have that I played on here that has this same problem. Uh, Back when I was a kid, there was a Ratchet and Clank game for PlayStation 2. Um, it kind of got remade in a way. And I played through it here on PlayStation 4. I, enjoyed it, but it was much shorter and much easier than the original PlayStation 2 one was. And I think that's the big problem these remakes are suffering from. Either they're too easy or they just don't have enough content to sustain to sustain the game. I've played through this game 4 times, and to be honest, I highly doubt I'm going to play through it more than that. I'm not saying this game is bad by any means. It's a fun and interesting game, and if you're a Resident Evil fan, I think you'll enjoy it. But if you're not really a Resident Evil fan, this game is not worth $60. You'll beat it in probably 4 hours, and 4 hours simply is not worth $60. If you're going to make me spend full price for a game, I really want to not be challenged per se, but I want the game to take me some time to beat. You know, I want to at least have it take me a day to beat the game. Now, I know I've kind of bashed on the game, and I did say I would talk about the things I like and the good things that this game had. So, let me talk about that for a little bit, and then that will really be all I have to say on the matter. The, the things I think this game did well is, first of all, the zombies look. The zombies and, well, the enemies in this game are fairly detailed and look fairly nice. As nice as a zombie or an undead creature could look. Both Leon and Claire, I like the way they look. I like the way they redid the characters. I like the way they redid pretty much all the characters in this game. I think they all were redone pretty well for the most part. Again, I'm going to skip this because the cutscenes in this game are way too long. Now, as I was saying, I think that most of the characters in this game were redone pretty well for the most part, and I think the enemies were as well. I think the game actually gives you a good. It sets a good atmosphere, and the tone of the game is pretty well done as well. I think the main problem from this that this game has is content, and then I think the second problem is the truth is zombies just aren't scary anymore. Zombies are found in almost every media outlet, from books to movies to video games. They're everywhere, you know? And the truth is, when something becomes this popularized, you become used to it, pretty much. And I think that's one thing that Capcom's Resident Evil is suffering from. It's become so big and famous, and so many people are used to zombies nowadays, that the fear it once instilled just doesn't exist anymore. We're used to zombies. Capcom, you're going to have to step up your game if you really, really want to start scaring us and start catching us off guard. Now, I will say this. I think this game is beautiful. I think it's fun. And I think if you're someone who can play a short game over and over again and still get, a lot of fun out of it, I think this game would do well for you. But if you're like me and you want your games to have a decent amount of content, at least take you anywhere from 5 to 10 hours up to beat, this game is not for you. I know I've kind of rambled on a little bit, and I am sorry for that. I'm new to this whole YouTube live streaming thing, and I'm not exactly used to talking while playing. But, to be honest, I know I've ragged on the game a little bit, but I would say, to be honest, even after everything I've said, I would give this game a solid 7 out of 10. Maybe 7.5. But that's just me. I wanted to say thank you to everyone for watching this video. I don't really have much more to say. I've kind of said everything I wanted to say about this video and about remakes in general. My only problem with, like I said, with this game primarily and remakes is lack of content. I think that if you're going to remake a game that's 10, 15 years old and is only 2 gigabytes big, you better add a heck of a lot of new enemies, a lot of new lore, and a lot of new everything if you're really going to blow people out of the water. Capcom, I know you probably won't see this video, but I hope somehow it gets to you and you pay attention, because I know you're making a remake of Resident Evil 3. It's already been confirmed, and I really, really hope that game is huge. I hope it's interesting, and I hope it's terrifying. Anyway, like I said, I don't really have anything more to say. To anyone who watched this video, I want to say thank you for taking the time to watch it, and I hope you have a good day. And please feel free in the comments to tell me what what your opinions are on Resident Evil, not just this game, but I mean the series as a whole, and tell me what your opinions are about games being remade. Do you agree with me that if you're gonna remake a game that's 10 or 15 years old, that it needs to have a lot of content to keep up with today's standards? Or tell me, do you think I'm wrong? And if so, why? I like to hear both sides of the argument. If you think I'm wrong, then let me know. I've got no problem with criticism, and I genuinely want to hear people's opinions. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now. If I have anything more to say, I might make another video. But for right now, so far, there's really nothing left to be said. So I'm not going to draw it out any longer. Like I said, thank you for watching this video. It means the world to me that you took the time out of your day to watch this. I hope to everyone who watches this, you have a great, amazing day. Anyway, I'm going to end the live stream now. Like I said, please feel free to comment, give me your thoughts and opinions. This has been Deranged Gaming, signing out. Peace.